Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Brothers and sisters, now we've reached the 17th juz, and this juz consists of Surah Al-Anbiya and Surah Al-Hajj. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this surah speaks about the prophets and their struggles with their people, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assisted them against their people and against the calamities and hardships that they went through, how they called upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how Allah gave them the special rububiyyah, the special lordship, and the special nourishment and nourishing of their souls and their affairs, and how He gave them victory against their people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts the surah speaking about, stating that the hisab, the reckoning, is drawing near, but yet people are in a state of heedlessness and they are in denial. So pay attention to these two words, heedlessness and denial, because Allah mentioned it a number of times in the surah and describing describing the followers or the people of the prophets, that they are heedless, and their hearts are not aware of the severity of the reckoning, and how everything will be judged by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they will stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and answer for everything they did, but yet they are in denial. Ayat 97 to 100, in the end of the surah, Allah also mentions this concept of the hour drawing near. He says, وَاقْتَرَبَ الْوَعْدُ الْحَقِّ, ayat 97, the appointment of truth has drawn near. فَإِذَا هِيَ شَاخِصَةٌ أَبْصَارُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, and behold, it is شَاخِصَةٌ, it causes the eyes of the disbelievers to be fixated and staring out of horror when they witness the severity of the punishment. And here in the beginning of the surah, Allah says they are in denial, but here their call and their sob and their cry would be, Ya waylana, oh woe to us, we were in a state of heedlessness, we were wrongdoers, we were sinners, we were evildoers. And Allah tells them that they and that which they worship besides Allah will be the fuel of the fire, and they all enter it. And He says, لو كان هؤلاء آلهة ما وردوها, if these were guides, they were true guides, they would not have entered the fire, and you will all be in there forever. And He described their state in the fire. Ayat 100, how they will have sound due to the punishment and the burn of the flames, billah, a sobbing and a groaning sound, and how they would not be able to hear, and that is because the roar of Jahannam will do their sobbing, and the noise will be too great for them to be heard. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not listen to them, as they did not take the prophets seriously, and they did not take his warnings seriously. And as in other ayat, they call out, Ya Malik, liyaqdi alayna rabbuk, O Malik, who is the guardian of Jahannam. They said to him, liyaqdi alayna rabbuk, let your Lord do away with us, let us die. And then after 1,000 years, He will come back and say, innakum makithun, rather you will stay. Billah. So just as they did not listen to the prophets, Allah will not listen to their call and their sob. And this surah, so it's a very severe, very serious warning, just as in Surah Al-Hajj. Allah starts the surah off saying, يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم إن زلزلة الساعة شيء عظيم. O mankind, fear your Lord. Indeed, the shaking of the hour, the earthquake, or the shaking, the zalzala of the hour will be something azim, something great. So in Surah Al-Hajj, Allah is calling us to honor His hurumat, to honor and to hold as great, just like the hour and the zalzala and the shaking of the hour is great. Similarly, Allah is commanding us to hold His commands great. وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ, whoever holds great the commands of Allah, فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. In this surah, Allah is calling mankind not to be heedless, not to be in a state of denial. Allah mentioned the prophets and their struggles and how Allah assisted them. He mentioned 17 prophets, and this is Juz 17, so you can remember if you want to know how many prophets that Allah mentioned in the surah. Look at the Juz. He meant the number of the Juz is 17. He mentioned 70 prophets. He mentioned Noah, Musa, starting with Musa alayhi salam, and then Harun, and then Ibrahim, and Lut, and then Ismail and Ishaq, Ishaq and Yaqub, and then Nuh alayhi salam, and Dawood, Sulaiman, and then Ayub, Ismail, Idris, the Kifl, Yunus, Zakaria, and Yahya, and then Isa alayhi salam, and Maryam. And it shows you how Maryam alayhi salam is surrounded by prophets. She is Siddiqa. She reached the highest level of that a woman could reach, and her son was a messenger and a prophet. Her cousin Yahya was a prophet, and her uncle also was a prophet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this surah, ayat 1 to 6, discussing how the people are heedless, how they are in denial despite the severity of the accounting, and how they will be judged by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he mentioned the prophets, how they the people of the prophets came to, and their people, how they attempted to put out the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to accuse the prophets of being someone they were not. They called them people who fabricate lies against Allah, people who come with meaningless message. They called them poets, and all different types of attempts to undermine the message of the prophets. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions to the Prophet in consoling him that there was no messenger that Allah sent before him except that they were men. They were not angels as these pagans they want, and they're asking for angels to come. There Allah says, وَمَا جَعَلْنَاهُمْ جَسَدًا لَا يَأْكُلُونَ الطَّعَامَ وَمَا كَانُوا خَالِدِينَ. He says, ayat 7 and 8 and 9, he says first, he says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ قَبْلَكَ إِلَّا رِجَالٍ. We only sent men. And then he said, we did not make them bodies which did not consume food, and they were not eternal. And then he says, ثُمَّ صَدَقْنَا لَهُمُ الْوَعْدِ. صَدَقْنَاهُمُ الْوَعْدِ. We fulfill our promise to them, and that is that Allah gave them victory and saved them from their people and destroyed the disbelievers. And similarly, Allah gave the Prophet ﷺ, he fulfilled his promise to the Prophet ﷺ, as the Prophet ﷺ in Hajj, when he used to go between Safa and Marwa, he would say, La ilaha illallah wahdahu sadaqa wa'dahu wa nasara abdahu. La ilaha illallah, there's none who has right to be worshipped but Allah. He fulfilled his promise, and he helped his servant. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assisted the Prophet ﷺ. So this is one of the correlations between Surah Al-Anbiya and Surah Al-Hajj. Ayat 11 to 15, Allah mentions how he destroyed, how many nations did he break the back of their nations and replace them with other nations when they were oppressive, when they were wrongdoers, people of dhulm, people who oppressed themselves and worshipping other than Allah and oppressed the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how they tried to run away when the punishment came. And Allah commanded them, he says, لا تركضوا, don't run away, ارجعوا إلى ما أترفتم فيه, go back to the homes that you were so comfortable with, and so that you may be asked. And he says that their call was, woe to us, ya waylana inna kunna zalimin, we were wrongdoers. Again, they were in denial, as Allah mentioned in the beginning, and heedlessness, and now Allah mentioned that they will call out crying and sobbing and acknowledging to their wrongdoing. And then ayat 16, 18, Allah explains how refuting the accusation and refuting the blasphemous belief that Allah created this world and this marvelous project of creation and of the heaven and earth, how the belief that He created all of this in vain, without giving orders, without setting guidelines, and without holding people accountable for what they have done. The righteous will not be rewarded, and the wretched will not be punished. This is blasphemous, and Allah calls this play and amusement. Play, He says, and we did not create the heavens and the earth as play, and that all that is between for play. And if we wanted to take play enjoyment, we would have taken it with us above the throne. He would not have taken it down with mankind. Rather, he created this world for profound wisdom, and it is not possible for those who live righteous lives and those who live wretched lives in evil and defiance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then they will have the same death and the same life. This is injustice in the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why Allah says, describing, warning those who make the statement or have this belief, وَلَكُمُ الْوَيْلُ مِمَّا تَصِفُونَ. To you is the desire, to you is the woe to you, wail for you for what you ascribe to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this shows us that many people may make statements and they come to conclusions, but they don't recognize the severity of the implications of what that statement means about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they receive punishment due to their lies against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And wail is, as the scholars say, is a valley in the fire. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then mentions ayat 19 and 20 to 23 His greatness and how great He is, and how He controls and He owns everyone in the heaven and on earth, and how the angels worship Him by night and by day, and they never take a break, so that those who live in the heavens worship Allah with fear and love continuously without stop. Allah does not need us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, describing how that He is one and He has no partners, and there's no one in the heavens and on earth, no deity, no true God besides Him. And if there were, then the heavens and the universe would not be intact. Each God would go away with that which they created, and they would seek superiority and dominance of the other. He says, لو كان فيهما آلهة إلا الله لفسدتا. If there were any gods in the heavens and on earth besides Him, they would have been destroyed. They would have fallen. They would have fallen into corruption, and that means that it would not be harmony as you see it. And this harmony is an indication that that there's only one who is controlling the heavens and earth. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned that He will not be asked. He's not questioned, but they are questioned. And ayat 26 to 29, Allah refutes those who associate the lordship and divinity to the prophets and the angels, and He describes 5 things that indicate that they have no part in divinity, and yet they are honored servants of Allah. They do not. He mentioned 5 things, and none of these things are, and each one is an indication that they cannot be gods and they cannot be divine beings. Number 1, He says, لا يسبقونه بالقول. They do not proceed. They do not speak before His permission. Number 2, they act upon His command. Number 3, He knows everything about their future and their past, but they don't know. They don't encompass Allah in knowledge. Number 4, they do not intercede without Allah's permission, and except they only intercede with those who Allah gives permission and those who Allah is pleased with. And number 5, that they are fearful of His dreadful punishment. So none of these are characteristics of divine beings. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, and whoever amongst them says, Inni ilah, whoever from the angels or the prophet says that I am a God, فَذَلِكَ نَجْزِيهِ جَهَنَّمْ, and that we will reward him and punish him with Jahannam. His reward will be the fire. So this is a warning to the Prophet. So what about Allah? What about us? May Allah save us from His punishment. This is something Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not accept and does not accept from any of His creation. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ أَن يُشْرَكَ بِهِ. Allah will not forgive that people associate partners with Him, but He forgives anything else for whom He wills. And of course the prophets will never make a statement like this, but Allah is warning these disbelievers, and so is the evidence that the Prophet is truly a messenger, as he would not make this kind of statement as a warning against himself if he's fabricating the Quran. Then ayat 30 to 33, Allah mentions 9 displayed miracles in the heavens and earth, clear for these disbelievers to see, and it should be a clear evidence that Allah is one, and everything there's a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one. Allah says that do the disbelievers not see that the heavens and earth were one unit, and we separated them, and we created everything living from water? Do they not believe? This is an indication that this is not from the Prophet. So he's not making this up. How did he know the heavens and the earth were one unit? How did he know that everything was created from water? And Allah mentions that the mountains stabilized the earth, and Allah created broad paths, made the sky a well-guarded canopy, the night and the day, and the sun and the moon. All of these are signs, and they are heedless to His signs. وَهُمْ عَنْ آيَاتِنَا مُعْرِضُونَ, and they're heedless and in denial to these signs that they see. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reminded us that death will come, and every soul will taste death, and that every good or evil that comes to mankind, behind it is a wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't look at what you see. Behind it is a wisdom. It's just a test. Which He said, وَنَبْلُوكُمْ بِالشَّرِّ وَالْخَيْرِ fitna. We test you with evil and good as a test, and to us is your return. So Allah controls your fortune and your misfortune. He controls your life and your death. How then can you deny Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the great, the magnificent? And then ayah 36 to 41, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions how they make fun of the Prophet and then mock at him and scoff at him. And the same was the challenge of the previous prophets. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them respite and told them, He says, سَأُرِيكُمْ آيَاتِي فَلَا تَسْتَعْجِلُونَ, I will show you my signs, but do not be hasty. So in other words, the punishment will come to you, and the signs of Allah that He promised will come. And Allah mentioned how they will be punished by the fire, and it will ambush their faces and their backs, and it will not be able to ward it off. He says, ayat 40, بَلْ تَأْتِيهِمْ بَغْتَةً, it will come as it will ambush them, and they will not be able to ward it off. And He says that وَلَقَدْ اسْتُهْزِئَ بِرُسُلٍ مِّن قَبْلِكَ, messengers before you were scoffed at and mocked at, and then their people were encircled by the punishment that they used to mock and they used to laugh at. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned how they disbelieve in Ar-Rahman, yet they're angry at the Prophet for criticizing the idols. And He said, ayat 42, قُلْ مَنْ يَكْلَأُكُمْ بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ مِنَ الرَّحْمَنِ, who is it who keeps you safe by night and by day from Rahman? Who can keep you safe from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Who is there if Allah wants good for you, or to take something good for you, or to have a calamity befall you? Who is there who can protect you from Ar-Rahman? And the fact that Allah used the word, His name Ar-Rahman, indicates that these people don't know who He is, and that He's merciful, but that despite His mercy, He will punish them. And this is indicative of the severity of their sin and how grave their sin is. Then Allah mentions ayat 42 to 44 how the 44 ayat 44 how He will punish them with a punishment in this life before the akhirah, adabun ajil. He says that He will take the disbelievers not see that we take the earth and cut it off at its ends. And that means that the Prophet ﷺ, do they not see that the Prophet is expanding his reign of authority, and it's causing them to burn inside, and this anger that they have is a punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the dunya before the punishment of the burn in the akhirah due to their rejection of the Prophet ﷺ. Ayat 45 to 47, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains. He says, وَلَئِنْ مَسَّتْهُمْ نَفْحَةٌ مِنْ عَذَابِ رَبِّكَ لَيَقُولُنَّ يَا وَيْلَنَا إِنَّا كُنَّا ظَالِمِينَ. If just a small portion of Allah's punishment were to touch them, they will cry out and call, woe to us, we were wrongdoers, admitting their sins. And as we mentioned, pay attention to this concept that how many times Allah say that they will call out. So imagine these people who denied all their lives, and then they admit, yes, I was wrong, I was evil, please let me go back. And it's too late. And Allah said He would put the scales of weighing actions, and no soul will be wronged, even if it's a deed equal to a mustard seed. Atayna biha, we will bring it forward. As Luqman said, Ya bunayya innaha in takum mithqala habbatin min khardalin فتكون في صخرة أو في السماوات أو في الأرض يأتي بها الله. He said, "Oh my son, indeed, if it were a deed equal to a mustard seed and it was hidden in a rock or in the heavens or on earth, Allah will produce it. He will bring it forward." And Allah says, وَكَفَى بِنَا حَاسِبِينَ, we are sufficient to call to account. And Allah mentioned the stories. Now He began to mention the prophets. He mentioned Musa and Harun for ayat 48 to 50. He mentioned Musa and Harun and how He gave them Al-Furqan, the Torah, the criterion, and He described it as being a illuminating light. And that diya is the same which Allah described the sun, which shams al-diya, and the sun we made a burning light. And that burn is in the Sharia of Musa was the severity of the ahkam, the rulings, and the laws. And Allah, after this ayat 50, mentions وَهَذَا ذِكْرٌ مُبَارَكٌ, and this is a blessed reminder, referring to the Quran. Will you deny it? And this is indicative that the Quran came to make things lighter. And the Prophet described his Sharia or his deen as Hanifiyat as-Samha, a monotheistic inclining away from shirk, so strict when it comes to Allah's right and monotheism, and then lenient when it comes to issues of law and legislation. Then Allah SWT mentioned the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and how Ibrahim was the Khalil of Allah, and how his deep love for Allah to be worshipped alone, and his deep obedience to Allah SWT, and his hatred for shirk got him the status of the Allah SWT that he deserved. And Allah mentions how he said to his people, in his hatred and his for shirk, hatred for paganism, and he said to his people in Babylon, قال بل ربكم رب السماوات والأرض الذي فطرهن. He said, rather, your Lord is the one who created the heavens and the earth. The Lord, the sustainer, the creator of the heavens and the earth, who created it from nothing. وأنا على ذلك من الشاهدين, and I am a witness to this. And he said, وَتَاللَّهِ, by Allah, I will plot against your idols after you turn away. And he said, فَجَعَلَهُمْ جُذَاذًا, and he made them pieces. He destroyed them just as the Prophet destroyed the idols. The Khalil, Allah, the first Khalil, Ibrahim, destroyed the idols in Babylon, and how they brought him to be witness. And he said the biggest idol did it, and they came back to their senses, and they knew that this is impossible for this idol. He can't do anything, it can't move. And then he says to them, أَتَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَنْفَعُكُمْ وَلَا يَضُرُّكُمْ, do you worship besides Allah things that cannot harm you and nor benefit you? أُفٍّ لَكُمْ is a word of deep disgust with that which you worship besides Allah. And then they said, burn him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had the fire protect him and be cool. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to the fire. And Ibrahim, when he was throwing the fire, he said, Hasbi Allahu ni'mal wakeel, the word the Prophet said when the Arabs gathered together and to destroy him and the battle of the trench. He said, Hasbi Allah, and the commanders, they said, Hasbi Allahu ni'mal wakeel. So they left, and they were not touched with harm, and Ibrahim alayhi left, and he was not touched with harm. And this is a comparison between the Khalil al-Rahman, the first, and the Khalil al-Rahman, the last, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And Allah mentions ayat 71 to 73 how Ibrahim left Babylon and Lut left Babylon, and some narrations along with Sarah, and they went to Sham, greater Syria, the land which Allah put barakah around it. So that was the migration of the Imam of Tawheed, the two Imams of Tawheed, going from a place of paganism and fire worship to a place where Allah put barakah. And the scholars, they mentioned that the barakah of Sham is so great. Isa will descend on the last day in Sham. The Dajjal will be killed, the Antichrist will be killed in Sham. There will always be a group of people who will stand upon the truth and fight. And Sham, as the Prophet said, there will always be a group of my ummah, or asabat min al-muslimin, a small group of people who will not be harmed by those who betrayed them, nor by those who show enmity to them, until the help of Allah comes, or the command of Allah comes. That's one of the barakah of Sham. Also in the hadith of Abdullah bin Hawala, the companion who asked the Prophet ﷺ, which army should I join? The army, he said, the Prophet said, there will be an army, and you will be three armies, one in Sham, one in Yemen, and one in Iraq. He said, choose one for me, O Messenger of Allah. He said, I go to the one in Sham, for indeed Sham is the khiratullah fi ardi, the land that Allah has chosen from, and he brings to it his servants who he has chosen. He's otherwise go to Yemen. The scholars, they mentioned that it is a land where people will be gathered and also resurrected. So Allah, when Ibrahim and Lut alayhi left Babylon, they went to Sham, and Allah blessed Ibrahim with Ishaq and Yaqub and made them imams. He says, وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَئِمَّةً, we made them imams, guiding by our command, and we revealed to them to do good and establish a prayer and give zakat, and they were people of worship to us. Then Allah, so this is the barakah of righteousness and leaving shirk. This is the barakah of leaving associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and making sure everything we do is for Allah. We avoid shirk, minor and major shirk, and Allah will put barakah in our children, bi'idhnillah, as He put barakah in the children of Ibrahim. Ayat 74 to 75, Allah mentions how He made Lut a prophet, and He saved him from the people of filth, and the people of homosexuality, and the people of immorality. Allah in ayat 76 to 77 mentions how He helped Nuh alayhi and saved him from the karb al-azim, the great disaster, the great punishment. And then He mentions in ayat 78 to 82, He mentioned Dawood alayhi salam and Sulaiman, and He mentioned the story of the sheep, or the flock of sheep that destroyed and damaged one of the gardens, and they ate. The shepherd was negligent, so they consumed or damaged the land of one of the landowners, and how Dawood alayhi salam gave his judgment, and how Sulaiman gave his judgment. Dawood alayhi salam, he gave the sheep as a compensation to the owner of the land, where Sulaiman alayhi salam, he kept the corpus and let the income go. So he kept the sheep in the hands of the shepherd, the ownership of the shepherd, but he left the sheep with the owner of the land for a time to benefit from the milk and the offspring until his vegetation came back. So this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, this is why Allah said, فَفَهَمْنَاهَا Sulaiman, we gave understanding to Sulaiman, and each we gave him wisdom and knowledge. And Allah mentioned how He subjugated the mountains and the birds with Dawood alayhi salam to recite with him, in unison with him, celebrating the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and reciting the Torah. And Allah taught him how to make defensive armor. And Sulaiman, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tamed the wind and the jinn for him, and how He gave him a global kingdom. Ayat 83 to 84, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the severity of the calamity of Ayub, the prophet who was afflicted in his wealth, in his family, in his body and his health, to the point that he had leprosy, to the point where his body decayed and people left him. He lost his family, he lost his wealth and his status and his belongings, and the only one who stayed with him was his wife, and the only two organs that in his body that did not decay, or the disease did not destroy, was his heart and his tongue. And he remembered Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by this. And he was tested to the point where people accused him in his religion, accused him that he deserved this because of a sin that he committed. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him, after some say 3 years, or 17, others say 17 years, some say 70 years, that Allah gave him his, after he made the dua to Allah, Allah helped him and gave him victory and gave him assistance. And this is a consolement of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, وَأَيُّوبَ إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ أَنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الضُّرُّ. I've been touched by calamity, and you are the most merciful. None is more merciful than you. فَكَشَفْنَا لَهُ فاستجبنا له وكشفنا ما به من ضر وأتيناه أهله ومثلهم معه. And we answered him, and we removed the calamity, and we gave him his family and equal to them, as a mercy from us and a reminder for the believers. So this is a reminder that after every hardship, no matter how long, there is ease. And this is a reminder of the Prophet ﷺ, how Allah helped Ayub, and he will help you as well, O Messenger of Allah ﷺ. And then Allah mentioned ayat 85 to ayat 89, Ismail, Idris, and that Kifl, and how he described them as being patient and righteous servants. And then he mentioned the Noon, Yunus alayhi salam, how he went away from his people out of hatred for their sin and hatred, but he was not commanded by Allah to leave them, and how he called in the three darknesses, the darkness of the sky, the darkness of the night, darkness of the ocean, and the darkness of the belly of the whale. He called out, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. So Allah is teaching us these secrets and these powerful dua, adiyah, supplications, which take us out of calamities. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentioned how he helped Yunus, Zakaria, and his dua that Allah rectifies his family and gives her the ability to have children at an old age, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him Yahya and rectified his wife. All of these are signs. And then Allah mentions ayat 90, what is the secret, what got them this divine victory. Allah says, إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا يُسَارِعُونَ فِي الْخَيْرَاتِ وَيَدْعُونَنَا رَغَبًا وَرَهَبًا وَكَانُوا لَنَا خَاشِعِينَ. Indeed, they used to hasten in doing good deeds, and they would join between hope and fear and khashya, hope, fear, and awe. And these are the wings, the two wings, and the head, which holds the bird of worship up, that we worship Allah with hope and fear and love, as mentioned in Surah Al-Fatiha. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Praise be to Allah. That's love. Rahman Ar-Rahim, the most merciful. That is hope. Maliki Yawmiddin, remembering the severity of Allah's anger on the last day. That's fear. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned ayat 90, Maryam and Isa alayhi salam, and how he made them a miracle for mankind. And that miracle is that Allah created Maryam from a mother who was barren, who was old, who could not have children. She was old, and Allah created Maryam from her. How He created Isa alayhi salam from Maryam without a father. And this reminds us how Allah created Adam alayhi salam from dirt without a mother or a father. So Allah